All right, I'm running Radium as an AAX plugin in Pro Tools at the moment. The same stuff will apply in the standalone version as well. It just is going to make the last thing I show just a little easier to demonstrate when it's inside Pro Tools. So I've got two sounds loaded in. There's that one and that one. So the very first thing is play them together. There's a global effects section down here. And this is all of the usual Radium effects, but it's going to apply to every single slot. So let's we'll use the old ring modulator again. Throw on chopper again. So you can see it's affecting both slots the same. If I wanted a global reverb, do the same thing. And of course, you can rearrange them just the same as the others. So put the reverb first, then chop it up. Anyway, and then you get a little colored icon that tells you that there's items active in the global effects. So that's global effects. We'll go back to, actually, I keep using this one. So that, we'll just solo it. So over here is the grain engine. And this allows you to choose the length of each grain, how much overlap there is between each grain. And you can see there's visualizations here. There's quite a lot of more visualizations because this is using the same graphic framework now. So I could do a lot of tricky stuff and not really slow the UI down too much. So there's your overlap, your length. This is your position, and this is offset from the start line. And then you've got speed. So right now it's 0, which just means it's going to be doing the same thing over the same position. As I increase this, I can go up to 1 times speed, which is regular, all the way up to 2 times. And then, if you add overlap, shrink this down a little bit, it'll kind of sound as though it was the real sound. And then you make it go backwards. Now, when you go backwards, the way it's working right now is each grain is still playing forwards, but it's just going backwards, if that makes sense. So if I increase the length, I'll turn the overlap off and go backwards. Start off in the middle here. You can actually see that it is doing that. It's kind of like, so there's an auto reverse here, which means that it's going to reverse the grain as well. So the grain is going to play backwards and it's going to be scrolling backwards through the sound. So that has some overlap. These parameters are automatable as well in the modulation section. You've also got, let me just set this back to 0. So, position, there's random position, which means it's just going to randomize the position around the current position. There's random pitch, let me just turn this off, meaning each grain will have a different pitch. There's random pan. And then the reverse probability. So this is, if it's on all the way, that means 100% it's that grain, like I showed here in the auto reverse, is always going to be reversed. But this allows you to have some grains that are playing forwards and some are playing backwards. So there's that. And then speed tracking. So if I hold down 2 notes, an octave apart, and change my speed up to 1, my position, I'll start here. You'll see, just like if I wasn't using grains, one plays faster than the other. But sometimes you don't want that. Maybe you just want to use the grain engine to create like subharmonic stuff. So you can go and make it constant. So now when I hit both notes, they're going to play back at the same speed. So there's that. The other thing I should probably mention is that I consider each note on a voice, even though it can be made up of multiple grains. Each one has its own time-specific envelope. So right now I'm just holding one note. So let's go and do time-specific envelope pitch, just so we can draw something in here over 2 seconds. And so now if I hold, say, 2 notes down, and now I'll hit one note, and then the other, and then another. And you can do the same thing with Doppler as well. So we'll just do this to here. There's my Doppler sound. And then if I play multiple notes, cool, right? So that's the Doppler and the grain engine. And then the other fun thing is a time-specific envelope for surround. So I'm going to go back to this sound here. Now, the way it works is inside Pro Tools, when you instantiate your plugin, you can choose what version you want. So there's a stereo version, and then there's a 5.1 version. So when it's 5.1, actually I should say I'm using this so we can actually hear all the channels. So this is basically a binaural down mixer. So it's taking inputs and then it's going to just make it stereo so that my capture software will be able to work. So with time-specific envelope on for surround, you can choose what kind of surround stuff you want to do. So I can just say left, center, right. If I just click on a point, that's going to be left. This is center. And I'll just show Alan's plugin again here. Where are you? Oh, there we are. Maybe I'll do inputs. Yeah, so you can see that center. Go back to, where's Radium again? Turn the targeting thing off. Pro Tools. There we go. I hope. Didn't make a mistake there. Okay, so right channel. As soon as I target it correctly. So as you see, it's going to right. If I went and made this a quad, there's left surround, right surround, right. I've got a bunch of presets here to do things. So we can go from the center to the back. So you can see because it's quad, center is left and right, going to the left surround, right surround. If I change this to 5.1, it's going to be center, so left surround, right surround. Let's choose one that goes all the way around, full circle. So this is a good one to sort of demonstrate. So each note on is following this automation path around the circle. So if I hit one note, then another note, and then another note, and they're coming to a stop at the end. I can turn looping on, and this is a ping pong, which means it will go this way, and then reverse the automation and go backwards. So we'll do that. Here's another one. And then you've got all kinds of randomization things. So what I'll do is I'll just put a point here. And this is probability. So right now there is 0 probability that it's going to flip across the axis. If I change it to 100%, it will always flip. So watch the meters over here. There it is going to the left surround. So that's x-axis flip, y-axis flip. 100% probability means if the automation point is there, it's not going to be there. So there's that. This is probability of reverse. I would actually have to have some automation, so I'll get to that in a second. Rotation, this is probability of rotating somewhere on this circle. So it's going to be wherever that current point is, it's picking a random static point. So this is really good for just randomly placing sounds in like a 5-1 environment for a bed. And of course, there's the automation. So let's draw something. Now, the way this works is it will play back however, or the same duration as how I draw it. So whatever the speed I draw it at, that's how it's going to play back. So if I very slowly go from center to left and then paused and then went to here, when I now play back, I'll turn my rotation, randomize it. So it goes there, moves across, paused a little, and then went here. So that's the automation path. And I can also speed that up here. I can rescale it so you can see it. I took 6 seconds to do that. I can make it longer, or I can shorten it up. So now the entire thing is rescaled a certain amount. I can also rotate the automation. So it doesn't have to start in the center speaker. Rotate it around here. You can see the automation is moving and changing. So when you have something simple like that, all you got to do is just turn on some random rotation. And you get something wild like that. And there's other things too. You can randomize how each voice is going to play that automation. So this was a global sort of speed change to rescale it. But this will say, actually, I want you to be from this range. Just means that some voices will play back faster or slower than others. And the play range is right now, okay, let me just turn my rotation off so we can see where each one's going. So it always starts there and it always ends there. So the random play range just says, actually, I want to randomize the points between here and here of where it's going to start and where it's going to stop. Yeah, so that is the TSE surround. Very powerful, very quick to just do things. And you don't, of course, you don't have to stay on the outskirts of the circle. You can do all kinds of fun things like this. And there's even a stereo mode here. So right now, it is a stereo sound, but I'm just choosing the left-only channel. I can choose the right-only channel. I can sum them to mono. I can go into stereo mode. So let me just turn this off. Got some construction going on outside. I'm not sure if my mic's picking that up. So, because it's stereo, I put my point on the left speaker, which means that let's call that channel 1 and channel 2. So channel 1 is going to go to the left speaker. Channel 2 is going to go to the right. And as I do it, go around the circle. It will follow as well. Do I have some randomization stuff going on? Maybe. It may be a little bug there. I don't know why that should have done it. There it goes. Okay, yeah, so that's that stereo mode. And it also means that when I go into center, they both converge into center. So this would be good if you wanted to, if you had a nice stereo source sound and you wanted to start in the center and then the creature sort of like comes to life and then maybe does that. So now center goes wide and then shoots all the way into the rear speakers. And then you've also got a stereo flipped, which means you can kind of see. It'd be easier if I do this. So it's flipped across. So channel 1 or stream 1 is going to the left speaker and stream 2 is going to the right surround speaker. Offset. So this allows you to say, okay, there's my left speaker, and then you can use this dial to choose where the right speaker goes. And this will sort of be like in a follow mode, so it won't converge into center anymore. Just that offset will always be kept. So you can see, there's the right speaker moving around. And spread. You know, I can't remember what spread does anymore. That's a little embarrassing to say. I mean, it's the amount of stereo spread between the two. I think the things they will still converge. Let's try. Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to see what I programmed there. All right, I remember what spread does. My problem was this dial was cranked up. So if I crank it to 0, wherever my point is on the automation, so let's go to the left speaker. With it spread to 0, both channels, left and right, will go there. As I increase the spread, the left and the right diverge from that point. So you can see there's the left channel, there's the right channel. So if I made my automation point in the center, you get a really different sound. And I can move this live. So let's see what it sounds like. And I'll just do this so we can see the meters in the background as well. So that's what spread does. Another thing I should say is even though this is called TSE surround, you don't have to use it in a surround environment. You could quite easily just make it left-right. And it's just a great way to generate really thick beds of sound. And there's no dead spots. So if I had my automation go around like here, even though there is no left surround or right surround speakers, it doesn't matter. It will figure out what to play. It will still equally put the sound between the left and right speaker, if that makes sense. The other thing I should say is that if you're using this in SoundMiner standalone, you can have on each slot, different TSE surround, and you can configure them differently. So this one could be a quad, and this one could be a 5-1. And SoundMiner will figure out when you hit record what the most channels it needs to sort of represent all the sounds. And so in this case, it would be a 5-1 sound would be what gets recorded. If this was a quad, it would just be a 4-channel sound file. And the last point about TSE surround is it's not a surround panner per se. It really is meant for generating beds and not doing any sort of panning to picture. I mean, that kind of thing, you would just create a stereo version of Radium and then just use the panner in your DAW to pan the sound around. It's just a great way to create clusters of sounds. I think it's great to think of it as ways of creating sounds for tornadoes or magic environments or battle scenes or anything where it's not really locked to the picture. It's just going to give the impression of movement, and then you would, you'd manage to survive your re-recording mixer's wrath rather than baking absolutely everything into a 5-1 stem. Anyway, that's that.